180K lead. My name is Mike Brady. I'm the VP of Upswing Poker, and I'll be calling the action for you today. We're joined by Heads Up Sit and Go legend, Brian Pellegrino, aka Primordial Aces, aka Primo. How you doing today, Brian?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Hoping to see a Doug win. The chat's not going to like to hear that because they are, for some reason, here for unbiased commentary. But wear my heart on my sleeve. How about you?
They're not going to get that out of me. We're definitely rooting for a Doug win here. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But we will do our best to be unbiased with the poker analysis because there's no real other option. Right now we're just waiting for Daniel to sit. Doug is microstake sitting in the top seat on both tables right now. The guys did put in a bit of a surprise session yesterday. They played for about 2.5 hours. Daniel picked up a small win, around 25K, to extend his lead a little bit. He's up about 180K overall now. If you want to see what's been going on in the challenge so far, you can go to upswingpoker.com/HU for Grudge. You can see that link in the bottom middle of your screen. Go over there. You can see from day 1 to 8 everything that's happened so far, along with a graph. Everything you can imagine.
Do you know, has there been any update on? I know, like 2 days in after the first 2 sessions or something, somebody did an EV update. Do you know, has there been any updates since then?
I saw another one, and I obviously haven't verified if it's like correct, but assuming the person is like at least in the ballpark, Daniel is running about 150K below EV now.
Okay.
Yeah. A little under 4 buy-ins. So we do have action now. Both players starting with opening the button, their own respective buttons. We get the paired flop on the right. Check back from Doug. Queen on the turn.
Just as I get myself set up here, is there an easy way to pop out Twitch chat just so I can have it right next to the screen?
That's a good question. I'm a bit of a noob.
Yeah, I swear I'd seen it in the past, but
maybe chat settings. I don't see it there. Check down pot on the right, and Daniel's going to put in a bet on the 4 straight river. Brian, Poker Pastor says, Brian, open a new window, enter the link twitch.tv/upswingpoker/chat. So just, yeah, you got it.
I got it in the bottom right. There's exactly. There's a little cog wheel, and it has pop out chat. So I'm good. I got you guys up now, and we'll see what happens.
Speaking of good, Doug making that ace high hero call on the river on the right versus Daniel's king high river probe on that 4 straight board. Good call from Doug. What's your calling range look like in that spot, Brian, you think? It was 9.
I missed the board as I was messing with the action. But go ahead and tell me again one more time.
It was 9-9-8, maybe 9-8-8, but same difference. Turn queen, river, jack. So it's 4 to a straight, paired board on the flop, and then checks down. Daniel bets the river for like 2/3.
Yeah, and Daniel was
out of position.
It's interesting. Ace high seems like a pretty. I don't think I'm calling ace high there that often. So I didn't see, did Doug have some sort of? Well, I guess there aren't even like blockers to have in that. So
no, not really. You get a 7 with it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would probably only call pairs there, but I'm not playing 200, 400. Doug putting out a pot size c-bet in this 3-bet pot on the left. I think that's the first pot size c-bet in a 3-bet pot we've seen in the entire challenge. Does get through.
Yeah, so I've been watching a decent amount, but mostly just following results. Most of their c-bets and 3-bet pots have been small, right? And then you have your large overbets happening on turns and rivers pretty frequently.
Yeah, most certainly.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like we are not live on YouTube. So can you handle calling the action for a sec while I see what's going on?
Yeah, I got it. So pretty big pot on the right. Daniel 3/4 here. Pretty good card for him to continue on, to be honest, after Doug just flats out of position. So, I just say, there you go. All right, Daniel with the king high kicker wins it. Doug had the jack with the straight blocker, which kind of makes sense. His hand should be jacks there. I guess a bunch of clubs, eights occasionally. On the left, D-Nags, I didn't see how it got there, so I missed that one, but we had a small lead on the flop. So given it was 2K, so 8K on the flop, it looks like it was a 3-bet. So Daniel 3-bet, bet 25%. He's barreling 3/4 on queen 7, king 4. Doug folds. Looks like a check back on the right from Doug. Kind of an interesting spot. I'd expect a lot of his range to put in a bet here. Yeah, there you go. And same, just an open and a call, and Daniel's patented min bet on the left.
Okay, here we go. I found the YouTube stream. Sorry, well, the YouTubers can't hear me, and the Twitch people don't care about the YouTube people, so who cares? But I will. Looks like we're about to be live on YouTube. Here we go.
Cool. Daniel again with the min bets. I know it doesn't feel like it. It's got to be super annoying to play against this min bet. I'm not sure Doug studied a bunch against it, but it just feels so petty. So Daniel again min bet into 3/4. I mean, he can have plenty of aces here, so can Doug, but the turn card definitely should be all right for Doug's range.
All right, now we're live on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Sorry about the delay. We started this one a little late on YouTube. My name is Mike Brady. This is the second time the Twitch people are hearing this. Sorry about that. My name is Mike Brady. I'm here with Brian Pellegrino, heads up sit and go expert over there. And we're here to sweat some 200, 400 action between Doug and Daniel.
And just for confirmation, heads up sit and go expert in another life. I'm washed up now, but I'm going to try to do the best I can. And Daniel gets it through on the right. So min bet and then large, like 3/4, I think.
So we're about even on the day. Doug took a quick lead with a couple pots, but Daniel's won a few back now. So it's about even.
Somebody's asking at what point will the player tags be reversed? Certainly not yet. 3,500 hands in.
You know what? No matter what the results are, I don't think they're getting changed. Sorry, guys. Doug could be stuck 500K at the 24,000th hand, and that's what the tags are gonna look like. Probe on the left from Daniel gets called. Pretty dynamic board. We get the ace river. Probably going to be a fair bit better for Doug as the check back player, or as the in position player who check back the flop. He's going to have a lot of ace highs. He's going to peel at least a handful of those on the turn.
Yeah, Daniel feels like Daniel can't go too thin there.
Yeah, definitely not. Could go for some check raises though, that's for sure, if he does have a strong hand. Ooh, check. Doug's going to win with queen jack high. Interesting one.
Winning queen high. Interesting. Paired board here, Doug with his just under a third sizing. Interesting. What's the biggest pot? I know you talked about your projection for biggest pot, which I think is going over what you guys projected. But what is the biggest pot you've seen played so far?
I believe it was the 130K one with the 9-7 versus aces. If that wasn't the biggest, then there was like maybe one that was like 140.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your prediction for biggest pot if you had to set the line?
Yeah, I think I think you guys. I think it was Fees who was saying it. I think he predicted 160 or even a little bit smaller, and then I would say even closer to 180 or 200. I think they're going to start playing. I mean, I know today they're playing a little bit longer, but in general, it seems like they're showing a willingness, or at least Daniel's starting with a lead, which means he's going to be a little bit more willing to play longer, and Doug is definitely willing to play longer. And I also think there's just going to be outliers where one table just has a lot of action. I think just a 200 big blind is only 250 big blinds on each when you're talking a 200K pot, which is not super easy to just mash in pre-flop, but like it should happen over 25K hands, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure. If they do end up playing 25K, I think up in that line that we came up with the other day is probably true. It's probably a good move.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the line on actually them playing 25,000 hands was not expected early on, and now it seems like it's actually the more likely scenario, because even if Doug starts winning, I mean, I guess it could, but at this point Daniel has some reasonable lead, right? So he has some buffer. It can only get so bad in the first 12.5K hands,
right?
enough
And I
so
also,
that he can chalk it up to variance, hopefully.
For sure, and I also think just him hanging really tough at least results wise. You can talk about play, whatever, but putting that aside, hanging tough results wise for this, solid first stretch of the match is going to make him a lot more likely to keep playing, even if he goes on a downswing from here. Doug
Definitely.
C-bet in a 3-bet pot, getting the fold on the right, and then we have C-bet getting called on the left. We get the flush completing turn. Probably going to be a little bit better for Daniel as the in-position caller. He's going to have more flush draws. Also just going to hit those middling boards a little bit more in general.
Wampy, I'm not totally sure if it is the loser that decides. I actually had already thought about this on I hope it is, but on what a troll it would be from DNegs to just quit after 12.5K if he's up, and all the insanity there would be on the side action and side bets that had happened around it.
Ooh,
But I don't
that
know.
would be crazy.
I don't know if it's only the loser that has the option to stop there. But
no, it is officially, it is only the loser that's allowed to stop.
It is only a loser. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
that's good at least.
Yeah, so at the 12,500th hand, whoever's down money has the option to quit or keep playing. So the person who's winning has no option.
Okay.
Speaking that and many other FAQs are available on that link. Oh, Doug calls correctly with top pair on that 4 straight board on the left. Nice call from him. Daniel, pretty standard float on the flop with the queen jack, 2 overs, and a backdoor flush draw. Pretty well played hand from Daniel there, I would say. Would you have played that any different?
Yeah. Again, I missed a little bit of it. Just I gotta make better. I gotta make sure I'm paying attention to both the action and the chat scrolling by at the same time.
Yeah,
it was a 3-bet pot with like 9-7-5, right?
Yeah, it was 9-6-4, I want to say. Maybe 9-6. It was. I don't think a straight was possible yet. Like 9-6-4, and then Doug just c-bet like pretty medium amount, and Daniel called with 2 over pairs or 2 over cards and backdoor flush draw.
Turn 1 check.
I think Daniel actually put in a bet on the turn and then bet the river.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, Daniel picked up the flush draw on the turn.
I'll pay better attention moving forward.
No worries. It takes some getting used to.
And somebody mentioned, what am I up to? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Baseboy asks, did you hear Olivier Bousquet's comments yesterday on stream about how Doug could exploit DNegs, and what do you think? It's hard to say. I think some of the exploits, I mean, Olivier is a great player, first of all, so, any disagreement I have with him will be it'll be more something that I would just have to talk with him with, and we'd probably iron out and probably be on the same page. But it's kind of tough to know for sure, if an exploit is good or if it works. But the ones he was saying, which is basically overfold versus Daniel because he was playing fairly tight pre-flop, probably not going to be doing as much bluffing post-flop as a lot of the super high stakes experienced heads-up players would. So for that reason, Doug should maybe do some overfolding post flop. I think that's a super reasonable, intuitive adjustment. Do we know for sure if it's right? Yeah, I mean, no, but it seems right to me. And then someone else asked, where did Bousquet speak about the challenge? He did commentary for the first hour yesterday. So if you check our VODs on Twitch or Doug's YouTube channel, the session from the 19th, November 19th, you could see Olivier comment with alongside Jamie Kerstetter.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really comes down to how Daniel is like preparing for this match. If he's, he has this team behind him clearly with Perkins and all of those people sort of working with their solutions or whatever they think is sort of like optimal play, and he's definitely doing some things that are unexpected. And so the question is, if you were asking exploits you would take against Daniel, going into it just as Daniel, if they started the match from day one, I think that's 100% reasonable. But I'm not actually sure that DNegs has intentionally like it's not like he has live player mindset and he's coming in here playing super nitty, or at least I would imagine not, right? I would imagine his team would be like, get him more on board with, let's say, like modern heads up theory. But it's interesting to watch because he has done some unconventional things for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of unconventional, we've seen him flat a couple hands that, if you look at pre-flop solvers, are basically how anyone who like regularly plays heads up plays would literally flat these hands 0%. The two hands were pocket queens and ace king suited. Those are hands that just, if you watch a million hands of heads up cash on PokerStars at the highest stakes, the highest stakes they have, that is, they don't have too much of that anymore. You would not see anyone flat those hands barring a misclick. So yeah,
I think there's ace king offsuit too, which is maybe even more egregious.
Yeah, questionable. Which one's more egregious? Kind of irrelevant though.
Yeah.
Doug getting picked off on the left, his river bet. Daniel making a nice call with a 6.
Doug 3-bets on the left. Folds the 4-bet. And DNegs with a 3-bet on the right as well.
Looks like a 4-bet just got through for DNegs on the left.
Yeah, KKs. I think that's a really common disagreement with people. I know a lot of friends of mine have that opposite approach. So the question was, Bousquet also said that him and Doug have opposite approach of how they would start the match. Doug will call till his opponent proves they don't bluff enough, and Olivier saying he believes people underbluff in general, and he starts with that assumption and then adjusts outward. Again, I think that's very, very common in terms of differing approaches of people. I'm typically in the Doug camp there, but I know some extremely, extremely good players in the Live camp. So common disagreement for sure. And big pot on the right here. Doug with 3/4 on the left. I wouldn't be shocked. Oh, clubs came in too. Yeah. All right. Doug bricked over there. Daniel rivered the straight, and Doug checked back. So be nice to know what he had there, but apparently he saved himself some money. Yeah, you're still muted. Probably for dog reasons.
Dog reasons indeed. I have a dog with not just a loud bark, it's a loud shrill bark. So perfect for streaming.
Yeah.
Get the 4 straight on the left. Keep in mind, everyone watching, the results in the middle are a ballpark estimation that we manually update. And sometimes also the doc like freezes and like even when we update it, it doesn't update right away. So thank you for your patience with that, but it's just a ballpark anyway. If you want to see the actual results after each session, we get the hard totals from Doug and Daniel after the session, and we put them on the results page, which is upswingpoker.com/HU for Grudge, middle bottom of your screen. You can see that link.
And somebody asked what I've been doing. I've been retired from poker for a while now. I'm still around, certainly, still part of the community for sure. But I started a couple companies. I do a lot of random things. I invest a bunch. I've been in crypto for a while. I spent $250,000 on Pokemon cards in the last couple months. Bought a bank. Do a bunch of things that most people don't do usually. But I don't know. I'm just clicking buttons. It's fun.
Are your kids old enough to realize how sweet it is that their dad's spending $250,000 on Pokemon cards?
I mean, he thinks it's interesting for sure. I've got one who's almost turning 7, and he's definitely kind of into it.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Hold on. Speaking of that, I'll be right back. I think a big package just arrived. To help my wife carry it. 2 seconds.
Yeah, sounds good. We got the 4 flush board on the left into this 5K pot. Doug puts out a really small little bet. He's been working in more of these blocking bets, it seems. Last session, we saw him do that for the first few times of the entire challenge. Now he's going for a bet on the right, 2/3 pot on this river. He gets called. He's got the nutters. It's going to win a nice little pot for him, about 20 blinds. People just starting to funnel in on YouTube now. Sorry about that, guys. We had a bit of a snafu with YouTube. YouTube Live can be a little weird sometimes. We got it sorted out. Good to see you all. My name is Mike Brady. I'm the VP of Upswing Poker. I'll be calling the action today. And the guy who stepped out for a moment, he's either over there or over there. I always forget which way, how webcams work. He is Brian Pellegrino, aka Primordial AA. He is a longtime heads-up sit-and-go beast. He's been playing more life games rather than poker games the last 5 years. But yeah, he's a great player, and we're happy to have him on today.
All right, somebody's asking, I'm back, by the way. Somebody's asking if I think Doug has the big edge that everyone thinks he has. I think it's way too early to tell, right? We're 3,500 hands in. Any sim will tell you, like, even at a massive, 20 BB per 100 win rate, this is 100% within the realm of variance. There's some interesting factors happening. Like, one is that DNegs is playing pretty untraditionally in a bunch of spots. Mike brought it up earlier. And so, like, you have somebody who has, both parties have their camps. They have all of these resources. They've had months to prepare. Like, if this was day one, Daniel walking in here, like, all of this stuff, I'd be like, yep, Daniel doesn't really know heads up. That's fine. But he's had a long time to prepare, and, like, to think that he's just coming in and, like, just a total fish it seems unreasonable to think, right? He's had people checking his play. He's had all the time to study solutions. He's had all the time to work with really good coaches. Now, I don't know how much effort he put in, but he's playing for millions of dollars. I assume quite a bit. So it's interesting to me that he's had, that, like, let's say 10 to 15 percentile swing of variance in his favor. So that's not going to happen that often. And to do that while playing, like, really non-traditionally, he probably thinks he's doing something really special or good. And I think it's too early to tell. But I do find it quite interesting. I definitely would bet Doug here, if I'm placing bets. But I think I don't know, there's some questions in terms of, like, what Daniel is doing special, because he seems to be playing in some aspects kind of insane. Not insane, but yeah, it's I don't know, it's interesting. It's much more of an interesting narrative than I thought it was going to be, which I thought it was just going to be like a back the truck up SmackDown, which would have also been fun to watch and kind of enjoyable in its own way. But as is, I actually think, like, intellectually, it's turning into a really interesting dynamic, and we'll see what the next 20,000 hands or so brings.
Yeah, I'm glad they're playing a lot more. Speaking of interesting, we have this raise from Daniel on the left versus Doug's block bet. Doug does fold. Daniel picks up a nice little pot. Yeah, and it is just really early, guys. Like, Doug is down, 4.5 buy-ins. That's an amount you could pretty easily lose in one session. a normal session. That's like pretty standard. If you ask any serious cash game player, how many times have you lost 4.5 buy-ins in a session? Their answer is going to be too many to count. So anything could happen here. Maybe Daniel's going to keep cruising and just keep increasing his lead until this thing's over. Maybe Doug's going to come back. Maybe there's a lot of possibilities. Thankfully, it looks like we're probably going to get 25k hands out of this match. At least that's my read on it. So I think we've got a lot of interesting stuff to still see.
Agreed.
3-bet pot on the right here. Daniel betting when checked to, going for the small size on this board that definitely favors him a little bit as the caller. I should say it favors him once Doug checks.
Check raise by Doug.
Tripman1 talking about the poker shares odds. Oop, check raise from Doug, yeah. Trip1 talking about the poker shares odd. Doug is 1.67 to 1 to win in one session, and then Daniel's 2.32. That's just for one session though, so it comes out to be about what that. I'm always bad at like figuring out the middle. But has Doug as a slight favorite, as you'd expect in one session. Can't be much more than a slight favorite. And then overall, I believe it still has Doug around 4.5 to 1 to win. Oop, jam on the turn from Doug. Call. Kings versus set. Nice hand from Daniel. Clear cooler. That's going to put Daniel into the lead on the day.
Yeah, pretty standard hand. I guess check raise is interesting by Doug. That's the most interesting part of the hand. But when you 3-bet kings and somebody flops a set, like on a pretty dry board, the money's typically just going in. So
yep, at some point it's going to go in.
And to answer chat questions, yes, bank. Only one Charizard, but not first edition. I've told this story online a bit, but I offered somebody my Tesla Model X for a first edition Charizard, like right when I started buying, right before anybody or people were just starting to care. He turned it down. The card's worth like $400,000 now, like 2 months later. So I'm sad, but I did try to get one and did not. Yeah, I think those were the ones.
Yeah, you went for it at least.
Yeah, it would have been nice. My wife was livid when she found out. I told her, I offered somebody our car today for this Pokemon card, and she's like, "What are you doing?" But I would have snapped it. I would have felt great about it.
Yeah, for sure. People a little bit confused about Doug check raising with kings, saying it's just one pair. One pair is a pretty strong hand, heads up, guys, especially when it's a pair of kings on a 9-high board. Monotone board on the right. Daniel checks over to Doug.
Definitely, man. Card distribution is a huge factor, which is why EV. Mike mentioned earlier in the stream, for anyone who's in here, last check of EV, and these are people manually doing it, so within some margin, but was like Daniel being 150k below EV. But again, we're talking 3,500 hands, and so yeah, card distribution is a massive factor, and at this point, probably far more important than EV is.
Oh yeah, definitely. EV doesn't tell the full story, but it is also the best we have. So generally speaking, when poker players talk about their true win rate, or they'll always talk about EV because it's at least factoring in something, but it doesn't tell the full picture. But it is better than just the raw green line or whatever,
For sure. Big pot on the left.
Yeah, Doug c-bets the flop on this 2-heart board, pretty dynamic. Quick call, 9 on the river. That's going to be a little better for Daniel. He's going to have more 9x here.
A lot of tough decisions if Doug checks here and actually has some value.
And sorry guys, we update that plus minus thing in the middle, but it just like freezes randomly. I'm not sure why that happens.
Another cooler. Doug with the king high flush in this case against Daniel's jack high.
Ooh, nice hand from Doug. That's obviously going to go in. So about 103k pot, pretty big pot early on in the session. So what do you think, like 50k there? So now he's up about 20. I will tell you guys, this sure makes me yearn for real hand histories and tracking. I wish I didn't have to manually type in $20,000 when Doug wins a pot and do math, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
What are
never
you gonna
mind.
do?
DNeg's winning would be good for poker.
I would love for you to elaborate on that Tripman one. I'm not saying I disagree. It's not really something I've thought about, but I would love for you to elaborate like why specifically you think DNeg's winning would be good for poker. I honestly think actually I don't want to bias your answer. I'll say after. 16K pot on the right.
I was gonna say something too, but let's wait until he elaborates on that. That's a good point.
Someone in chat saying, by the way, to our stream runner, tables need to slide down just a bit. Yeah, can you tick them down like 6 pixels or so? Just so when the showdown hunt comes, we can see Doug's cards a little better. Pot size bet from Doug on the right. Thank you. Doug winning, or no, sorry, Daniel's got a straight. I don't know how to see a board.
6 pixels, Jimmy. I'm expecting precision, buddy.
The bet gets through for Doug on the right, winning a nice little pot. Ooh, we have a heads up for rolls. Well, I guess that it wasn't for rolls, but just we have a heads up battle happening in the chat. Good stuff. Keep us updated, guys. Maybe you should stream that.
That's what we're here for, definitely.
Who do you guys think is the more humble player of the two? That is a fantastic question. It's pretty close. Neither particularly high in the humble stat category. If this was like your create a player in like a poker type of like sports video game, their humble stats would be
they just
pretty
didn't,
low.
and they didn't allocate any resources to it.
Yeah. They
zero stat points spent.
I honestly think the answer depends on what specifically we're talking about, what being humble about what type of thing. Because I've heard Doug, I'm a friend of his, so I'm of course biased, but I've heard Doug be humble about a lot of things, but obviously a lot of his public persona is anything but humble, and I'm sure it goes the same way for Daniel. So yeah, ooh, Doug winning a small pot with the jack high on the right.
I don't know enough about Daniel in real life, I guess. I've played with him a little bit, but he's always kind of on when he's there. I've heard people have pretty negative interactions off camera with him, whereas Doug, for the most part, I think is generally non-persona, pretty down to earth. So I think that's quite telling.
I would agree, but again, I'm close friends with Doug, and my only relationship
super biased.
My only relationship with Daniel is being at his table once and then really disliking his public persona for several years. So
yeah,
definitely biased. So we did get an answer from Tripman on why it would be better for Daniel to win for poker, that is, which is because it would give poker media cool headlines like old school pro veteran beating GTO new school bot. I think that's a reasonable point.
So my counterpoint to that is DNegs is not coming in here playing as this old school veteran, right? Like he's studying, he's using solid, like he's using all the modern available tools. And I'll take the counter position in that Doug was like one of the best heads up players in the world, if not the best for a long time. And if somebody can come in here who's just like a mixed game MTT player who like probably couldn't beat online cash a while ago and definitely doesn't play heads up and couldn't play at the highest stakes and can just use those resources and beat the best in the world, then it really is like all of us guys who spend 5, 10, 15 years of their lives like dedicating to this is it just means like all the people putting in all the hard work now, it means the gap is much more narrow to close. And to be honest, that would almost be like not a nail in the coffin, but it'd be a big black mark against HUNL in general. And that just like the better that resources get for studying, the more everyone is going to get to being like very identical or be able to be world class very, very quickly. And it takes away from that like paying your dues and really getting good and having that edge that Doug had for so long. So I think everybody who who sort of puts in the effort to grind and get better and the years of sort of learning the knowledge of heads up or this kind of post flop play. And not like Daniel's obviously played poker. He's not starting from scratch, but in the same way that it would take Doug, and I know Doug went to play mixed games for a while, it would still take time to catch up. And I think closing that gap too quickly would be concerning.
Yeah, definitely. Chop pot on the right, and we did miss while we were chatting there. We missed an all-in, a check shove on the turn from Doug on the left to win a nice sized pot. And yeah, I mean, my answer to who wins, like which is better for poker, I honestly think it makes like almost no difference. Like basically, I think just the fact that the challenge is happening is good for poker, and then the results are going to be like the difference. I'm sure one is better for poker, but it's hard to say, and I think it's going to be a minor difference. It's just like the fact that we're getting 25,000 hands. You know, we have multiple streams of this going. A lot of people interested in the match, even if they're just occasionally checking in, because you know it is understandable. You don't want to sweat hundreds of hours of poker with no hole cards, especially. But a lot of people are following this, and that's definitely what's best for poker.
For sure. Yeah, and Galfon's challenge sort of catalyzed this of like, heads up for rolls, man. It's in again. It's in vogue, and now we finally get some NL action instead of just PLO.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff for sure. I do not personally find it fun to watch PLO. I like playing it, but watching it is a little bit meh.
Same.
Too crazy. Thank you, APK. Appreciate that compliment. He complimented both of us, Brian, just so you know.
Nice. Clance gave us a nice shout out as well. So good. I'm glad people are enjoying it.
Yeah, I love sweating these hands, guys. I've never been involved in commentary or any sort of streaming or anything like that before, but when we were running these streams at Upswing, I just had to hop in there. It's just too fun to talk about heads up hands, watch the action, see what crazy stuff some of these people in the chat decide to say. It's great. I believe it was either a c-bet it's a 3-bet pot on the left here. I believe Daniel either c-bet 2K or Daniel checked and Doug bet 2K. I'm going to guess.
I think Doug bet.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now Doug going for another small bet, 33%.
It's interesting for Daniel to 3-bet and then check call twice here. I feel like it's not a spot Doug can bluff a ton. Yeah, and so Daniel floats the flop, gets some equity on the turn, and then rivers some showdown value. So
yeah, interesting flop check call from Daniel. I'm not sure about that one.
That potentially maybe I had maybe I missed it, and maybe Daniel did see bet because the hand as it played out would make more sense that way. But I swear I thought Doug bet on the flop.
Yeah, if Doug did indeed bet on the flop, that is a very okay. Daniel c bet 2K, where someone in chat is saying. So yeah, Daniel bet. So that
okay. Yeah, it makes way more sense as you see cards. Yeah, it becomes a lot more logical that way.
Definitely.
And Daniel somebody asked. Oh, go ahead.
Daniel could have definitely double barreled the turn, but Yep. Yeah. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Somebody asked just if I will shout out Hux Joe Flo. So Hux Joe Flo is Christian, old school heads up sit and go player from Iceland. Really amazing guy. Actually, he was the most popular rapper in all of Iceland, which is like a really obscure thing to be the most popular rapper in Iceland. Came over, played heads up sit and go, huge part of the community, made a bunch of really famous videos on
most notably in my opinion, Cowboy Marco. Fantastic.
Yep.
Oh,
so he did that, and actually his partner from his original rap group passed away this year, and he went back and just re-released an album out of to honor him or whatever. But cool album, awesome guy. Hux is the man. So he definitely deserves a shout out. He's a member of the community for a super long time and just a genuinely great guy.
Yeah, he is a great guy. I actually have a great story about Christian that I will go into in a moment. But yeah, he's fantastic. 4-bet from Doug. It's like almost I had a read on that. He makes it 10K. That's been his about standard sizing. Daniel's gonna have to call about 6,600 to see a flop here into this 15K pot. See what he decides to do. Baseboy 4, biggest rapper in Iceland, is like being the best looking guy in the birds unit. Sure, but it's still pretty difficult to accomplish.
Yeah, I loved as like being the best snowboarder in Zimbabwe, surely. So yeah, um, good analogies, guys. I love them.
So this 4-bet pot, 7-5-3 board should not really hit either player. Doug's obviously going to have the advantage as the 4-better, but Daniel will hit this board a little bit more often with a hand like 7-6 suited or something. Doug shoves with the flush draw and straight draw.
Daniel has
Daniel
all of the
calls and folds
blockers,
up.
all of the straight blockers. Anyways, like the one hand, like give him eights, give him something, but
Yeah, that's a good call from Daniel because he was facing an overbet, 30K into 20. So maybe you think, how do you put that much money in with just one pair? But when you think about the possible one pair, sixes is actually going to be one of the best ones because compared to other ones he could have like eights or nines, because at least sixes has sort of an escape hatch with its its gut shot if Doug does indeed have something like queens, whereas like not something like nines in Daniel's shoes is, in terms of relative hand strength versus Doug's range, it's the same hand because Doug doesn't have like eights there. More than likely, he doesn't 4-bet eights. Probably maybe jams the flop if he does, but probably just doesn't 4-bet them. So six is going to be one of his best calls. So if you're puzzled by that call, it definitely makes sense.
do you think he has a small size there as well?
Yes, I would imagine he does.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting. I wonder what hands he's choosing to jam there. Right, it was like 1.5x pot. Like queen four suited makes total sense, but like what else are you jamming there to balance it out? Are you jamming, you're probably not jamming like your queens, the aces in the top end of your range. So like what are you doing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think like tens and jacks are going to be pretty reasonable, at least like mixed frequency shoves or something.
Yep.
I bet if I had to wager a guess, I would say that Doug's going to play two sizes there, mostly bet small with a lot of his hands, but then he has some hands that really that really benefit from shoving, so he's going to shove with those.
Yeah. I mean, clearly that hand makes a ton of sense. I'm just wondering what he balances that out with. So it's a really interesting spot.
That brings us to about even on the match. I kind of lost track actually. Doug was up about. We didn't update the thing for a moment there. Doug was up about, I want to say 50 or 60. Now they got to be at least close to even. Not positive on that though.
And Hux Joe Flow is now in the chat, so Iceland's former best rapper is now here.
Yeah, so my story about him, by the way, he was at Ryan Fee's house during last summer, he was just hanging out there. He was in Vegas for a little while. I'm gonna try to make this short because it's such a personal story, but he decided to join us for his first EDC, pretty big music festival. For those who don't know, it's like overnight, pretty substance fueled nights at EDC, and Christian decided to join us, and he ran into he's obviously hanging out with our group of friends, and our group of friends happens to have 5 people from Chicago who I'm going to pause for a second because we have an overbet from Doug on the left here, 12K into 8K.
And 3/4 on the left, but I'm not sure how the action went. No, Max, they don't reset the stacks. They can't reset the stacks.
Raise from DNegs here. DNegs is probably going to have a strong hand when he puts in a raise over this overbet.
Yeah, that's the interesting spot, right? When it's 1.5x pot into a raise on this paired 3 flush board, and you're tanking, and it's not a snap fold.
Yeah, interesting spot. I'm going to guess Doug has something like a flush, maybe a 9. Doug deep in the tank. He does fold.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, it happened to be that 5 people in my group at EDC who met Christian that night were huge fans of his Cowboy Marco song when they were in high school, to the point that they ripped it from YouTube and put it on their iPods and would just listen to it. So it was just the most bizarre experience for them being at this music festival and meeting the person who just made this extremely random song. Those of you who don't know, I think it's still on YouTube. If you search Cowboy Marco poker, something like that on YouTube, you'll likely find the video. Hilarious story. If you look up just Cowboy Marco's story in general, it's comical. Very old
All
school poker stuff. It's good.
all of those at the time were just amazing. Community wise, they were just amazing. And I was actually in Vegas with Borg and Hux right before or right after that EDC. So I've heard all about this experience.
Doug using his smaller 3-bet size on the left, which he does when stacks get deeper. That's to keep the pot smaller. So he's playing a smaller pot out of position. That's because the in position advantage is bigger when you're deeper. So Doug decides to use a smaller 3-bet size when he's deeper for that reason, to keep the pot a little smaller. That way Daniel's winning more of a smaller pot. Daniel's now going for a double barrel for 2/3 here. It's a call. Doug he's gonna have some ace highs here for sure. Maybe have some straight draws. Maybe some medium pairs 9x. Oop, that's a flush.
Yeah.
Good check from Daniel. Did not fall for the trap.
Someone's saying they're new, but saying they're hearing that Doug is over bluffing. Can the commentary weigh in? No, I don't think so. It may seem like that. So there's a couple ways that basically that can play out. One is that if Daniel is, you can assume at least from coming into this, they've studied a bunch of GTO. They're both trying to play GTO to start. And then you're going to see them start flexing and trying to exploit each other and trying to pick apart people's weaknesses of kind of what they're doing badly, right? So, if he's just really adhering to kind of whatever GTO construct that he has, he's not really exploiting too heavily yet. So if Daniel is playing too tight, let's say, it's going to look like Doug is over bluffing. He's going to be getting called and losing a lot in those bluff spots, but he's going to be making up for it in all the times when basically Daniel is folding pre-flop and Daniel is folding on all these other areas. Like Daniel sacrificing red line if that was the case. In general, I highly doubt that Doug is making some egregious mistake and just like over bluffing in general. But again, certainly with the way ranges are distributed across their strategies, it can seem like that. Like he's always getting called and always, seems to have a way higher percentage of bluffs and get called and lose way more often, but still be winning overall because of the red line that Daniel's sacrificing. So I'm not saying that's exactly what's happening, but there's certainly plenty of scenarios where it can look like that and still be the best strategy overall.
Yeah, definitely. And then another thing, those are all great points. And then just to add, we don't see all the hands. We only see the showdowns that get called. So it's really hard to know. Doug winning with a nice little pot with the set on the right. Yeah, like we don't see all the hands. So, maybe Doug has had Doug has kind of ran bad in his value bets getting called less often than his bluffs have, or maybe not. Maybe Doug has just been gotten away with a ton of bluffs and he really is just super over bluffing. And that's why we've been seeing him get caught a little bit. But it's also hard to say. It's hard to reckon your own like bias when you're watching this because certain hands are going to stick out more than others. So you might just be remembering several bluff hands from Doug and being like, oh, it seems like Doug might be over bluffing. But in reality, you might be maybe forgetting some value hands. I personally don't know. I'm not confident to say either way. If I've noticed Doug has had more value or bluff at showdown. But yeah, it's tough to say with the cards down.
100%. Doug used to be number one. Where would you put him now? To be honest, I'm not that up with like the modern heads up cash scene and like where everybody is. Like, given the fact that he's been retired and just generally being, rich and doing YouTube and playing Counter Strike and starting Counter Strike teams or whatever, I would guess he's not very high up, but he's put in a ton of work. I think both of them have put in a ton of work for this, so it would not surprise me at all if he said, I'm going to go back and this year I'm playing HUNL deep and like that's what I'm going to do. If he gets himself back in the top 10 or something reasonably quickly, would not be at all surprising. But yeah, I think I think it would be at least mildly disrespectful to the guys who are kind of in the top 5 currently. Be like, oh yeah, he's back on top. He had all this time off, but he jumped back in, and he's good to go. He's still an amazing player. Like clearly, he thinks he's a lot better than Daniel. Daniel's not coming from that top 10 category, but like I think if you gave Doug the chance to kind of choose somebody in the top 10 right now, whatever those rankings may be, and have this same match with them a month from now, I doubt that he's going to be jumping from that or ending his retirement over that. Where like Daniel was a spot where it felt great for him to do that and felt like he even if he didn't want to was obligated to.
Sorry to cut you off, Daniel. Getting the value bet on the left with top set there to win a 30K pot. Nice pot from Daniel. Board
Yep.
completely bricked out. Pretty draw heavy, bricked out. Daniel gets 3 streets. I have noticed there are certain people in the chat that chime in when one particular player wins pots and says that poker's all skill and that pot was all skill, and then when another player wins big pots, they don't chime in about it being all skill. Interesting how that is. It's almost as if we base what we say on our prior biases.
You'd never guess that humans would do such a thing.
Hard to imagine. FYI, everyone, we do have an FAQ now. We see a lot of the same questions. Why aren't they showing hole cards? Why are they playing on WSOP? Blah, blah, blah. If you want to check that out, go to upswingpoker.com/grudge-FAQ.
Somebody says Linus is the best in the game these days, and that's what Limitless says. And somebody else said Limitless was the best. So interesting. Again, not currently. I did hear that there was some really big heads up match going on online between two of the beasts, but I don't remember off the top of my head who it was.
Mike McDonald says, I will ensure to ban anyone making biased comments in the chat. Thank you. Doing the Lord's work.
Thanks,
Keep this place clean. No biases. Yeah, I'm not sure if Linus is if when you're talking about best player number one, if you're talking about six max or heads up, because Linus is certainly up there in heads up, if not, or rather six max if he's not number one. I'm not. I know he does play high stakes heads up, so he's no slouch. That's for sure. He's a great player. I just don't know for sure if he's like considered the heads up guy. Generally speaking, and it could be different these days. Modern poker's a lot different. The best heads up players are heads up specialists, and they focus really strictly on that because it's such a unique game type. It's a totally different beast, so it's hard to study six max and heads up simultaneously, and then throw in the fact that Linus plays PLO too. I mean, it just and some tournaments. It's hard to say, but maybe he's just so deep in the solver dungeon that he just has all the sims and all the answers for every game type, every spot. Seems hard, but possible.
And that is the heads up match I was mentioning. Somebody brought it up. It's Barry Sweets versus Linus. I forgot about that. And somebody else asks, when is Gobbo Boy going to be commentating? Jimmy, when are you coming on, man? When are you taking over? Gobbo says he's just here for the beautiful colors, guys. He's not here to do commentary, so you're gonna have to catch him in person and get his thoughts.
Or tweet at him.
Or tweet at him.
Watching the cards run. That's all I'm doing here.
Chop it up with ace high on the right. Daniel misses his flush draw. Another person bringing up one of our FAQ questions. Check out the FAQ. One of those questions includes, why is the commentary biased? I will answer that one for you. I'll go ahead to the link, and again, that link is upswingpoker.com/grudge FAQ. Let's see what we have for the answer on why the stream is biased. I can't remember, so I have to check. One sec. Let's see.
Daniel with the 20K win over there.
You're watching. The answer is you're watching Doug/Doug Company's channel.
Oh, shocking! Could you imagine that Upswing, the company owned by Doug, would have a stream that is rooting for Doug? And also, somebody else says that Victor could be number one. I don't know, man. As much as I was a Victor fanboy back in the day, I just don't think that's happening. I think that ship has sailed. Kevin, man, K-Rab, what's up? Legends in this chat.
Who do we have there? I missed it.
K-Rab, Kevin
Oh,
Rabashow.
Nice. Yeah, K-Rab actually planning to join us for some commentary next week. Great heads up player. Will be great to have him on. Likely next Friday. The playing schedule of these guys is fairly informal, so you never know. Maybe they don't play the Friday after Thanksgiving, but if they do, it'll be me and K-Rab calling the action for you.
Awesome.
I love you guys so much. I love you, chat.
That's I gotta focus on the action. I'm getting distracted. Reading chat
I know,
is too amazing. I do miss my streaming days, just getting to interact with people.
Oh, it's just so good having just thousands of people. Like I was talking about this with someone, having thousands of people and not like tens of thousands or a smaller amount. Daniel getting paid off with the flush on the right. Is like the perfect amount because the chat's not so fast that you're not even able to read anything, but it's enough people that like the sample's so big, you basically get every possible thing that you could possibly imagine being said about any event or any statement or any hand gets said because there's enough people. So it's just like you get to hear the entire like group of possible answers or thoughts or opinions or whatever about something. It's just so interesting.
Yeah, and then there's all I love just guessing how much time people put into making up fake stories, and there's somebody who's writing up a D-Negs novel earlier about meeting him at the grocery store. I don't know if you read that little bit, but I laughed.
Oh yeah, then someone switched it and made it Doug.
I didn't see it. Yeah, awesome.
Sam One asked, "Is this real money?" No. Playing for fake money today. The other sessions are real. Daniel with the check down to river bet on the right now.
Getting close. This table on the left may beat your guys' 100 and 160K guest already. It may happen today.
Value bet gets paid off on the right for Daniel. We think Doug's in for about, by the way, chat, about 150. That's what we're going with that center update. We're not sure he's in for 150, but it's like roughly that, maybe a little less. So that's what we're going off of. That's what that middle number is based off of right now. 150K for Doug. So he's down a little bit if that is correct. Another check down to river bet, this time from Doug. He's value betting an 8. Daniel's got top pair. He's going to win that one.
I feel like we should get the get the other side. You guys need to bring Perkins or somebody onto chat one day. Anybody who's just like a big Daniel fanboy and just hear the split commentary. I haven't listened to any of the GG Poker streams, or maybe that's what I need to do is just watch it for one session and hear the other side.
Yeah, why not? If Bill Perkins wants to come on, he is welcome.
second. I think we're about to lose our tables.
FR Empire Freak asks, what the F, Doug? Just starts losing every session. He actually started this one leading. He was up about 40k. Now it seems that he's stuck, or it's very close to even. We're not positive on what he's in for. It's about 150. Yeah, he did actually start leading this one. We're about an hour into today's session. They did seem to decide to play longer today. I'm not sure exactly what longer is, but they'll likely be playing for like 3 or 4 hours. That's my guess.
How about Luke Schwartz? Opinion on his ego in the one-on-one game against Doug? Luke is a total train wreck, but I find him hilarious, and I think his pigeon comment was just absolutely A+. So I leave him around to follow what he says, but I don't actually care about what Luke says.
That copy paste
yeah.
was good. That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
It's a classic.
Yolanda on YouTube asks, how many sessions left? Oof. I'm gonna guess probably 25 or so more sessions, but that's just a guess because they're not like playing a set amount of sessions, they're playing a set amount of hands, and obviously that's going to vary how many hands you play in a session.
It's about 600 hands so far per session.
No, quite a bit less.
Oh, is it? All right.
Yeah. The longest one they played was about 650, I think.
Jamie, who has the highest ego to skill ratio? That's actually a really good question. I'll immediately throw out my boy Skywalker, aka Rashid, who I think is top tier and very low ego, but there's got to be a lot of people high up there. There's plenty of guys who are just quiet crushers. I mean, K-Rab is in here, right? I've never seen K-Rab throw ego anywhere. Yeah, there's gonna be a ton of people who fit that criteria.
Yeah, there are. By the way, if you guys have any questions for us that maybe don't quite fit this format, like us answering out loud for thousands of people, you can tweet at us at mbradycf. Brian, what's your screen name over there?
Just at Primordial AA.
Primordial AA. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can hit us up there. I'll also see most things you tweet at Upswing Poker. So yeah.
Not sure if he's still considered a crusher. Yeah, I mean, talking about Galfond. I mean, man, Galfond won his first challenge against like a total beast. Yeah, I'd say even he loses this current challenge, that he certainly is still of crusher ability. I don't know how much of his time he dedicates outside of these challenges to playing poker. I know it hadn't been that much heads up, but I think he's still playing maybe live or six max a reasonable amount when he's spending time in Vegas. But yeah, he's still definitely very high up there.
It appears we might have misunderstood that question. The highest ego to skill ratio would mean the most egotistical and the least skilled. So we were answering the reverse. We were answering the best players with the least ego. What Jamie was actually asking.
That's a much more fun question. The most ego to the least skill. Ooh, we can get some angry people here.
Yeah, you want to fire some shots, or you want to just let this one slide by?
Unless I come up, I'll let it slide by unless I come up with a good answer. I'll kind of let the wheels turn for a minute and see who we can throw under the bus here.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, the easy cop-out answer, as Chad is saying, is Dan Bilzerian.
Dan Bilzerian, yeah.
Sure. That's like easy. I mean, I don't even know.
He's not a poker player. Like, come on.
Yeah, not quite as much. He's more of a I don't even know. Instagrammer. Yeah. Ooh, Brad Newman. Shout out Brad Newman, by the way. Good to see you in here. 100% JRB. Could be, could be. I don't know how he does seem pretty egotistical. I watched his Survivor season, and he was something else in that. So, yeah, maybe it's him. Doug with the Nutter Butters on the left, winning a small 25 blind pot. Thin value bet from Doug getting called on the right.
Yep. I'm just laughing internally or thinking of all the people I had had kind of grudges against back in the day, of people I just didn't think were that good, but were considered very good. But
the heads up sit and go lobbies were full of people with ego that did not match their skill. I'll admit that my young self was certainly one of them. I definitely overrated my own skill. I mean, I think I was a decent player at least, but I thought I was much better than I was. So
yeah,
I think it's something about the format, I think, kind of breeds that. I'm not sure what it is, but
I think we all do for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Bet from Daniel on the river here on the left. Doug putting in some chat. First chat of the match. As usual, it's just ...
Oh yeah, I forgot actually. Yeah. I thought he actually typed that, but I heard you say on stream the other day that it ... everything.
Yeah, everything gets the ... When they decided to do, I believe it was when they did WSOP like online, like the series, they like wanted it to be like, I guess, rec friendly, so they were just like, no chat. Whatever, I don't know. I guess they wanted.
We can't expose these people to the internet.
No,
we have no clue what they're getting into.
A keyboard on the internet is just too much for these guys. Check raise on the river from Daniel on the right. Only one bet went in post flop in this one. Prior to the river, I should say. I don't know if it was flop or turn. But now Doug putting in a river bet and getting check raised. Call. Daniel with the trip queens getting paid off.
I didn't see where that first bet came from.
Say that again, sorry?
I didn't see where that first bet came from. Like nobody's limping, so Doug raised, Daniel flatted. Did Doug c-bet small? Did Daniel probe turn? I guess the c-bet makes more sense. That Doug c-bet, turn one check and Daniel check raise the river.
Yeah, that's a good check raise from Daniel. On the thin side, but it's a good one.
Yep. Yep.
So let's get some predictions from the chat. We have enough people now to have a solid little sample. Let's get first. Let's start with who's going to win this session. Doug's up about 10K right now, approximately. So what do you guys think? Is Doug going to cut into Daniel's lead or take the lead this session? Is Daniel going to win, or is Doug going to win, or is Daniel going to win? Give me a 1 for Doug and a 2 for Daniel, please. Drop it in the chat.
Three bet pot on the left, and Daniel 3/4 gets a Doug fold on 8-6-2.
I will be right back, guys.
Oh man! All right, I won't. I won't throw her under the bus in terms of the skill to ego ratio, but I will say in terms of winnings to insane plays, Vanessa absolutely is at the top of my list. I remember this hand that I played against her in the 10K heads up that I wrote about a little after. I don't think I've ever seen anybody take lines that I would just never ever expect more than Vanessa. And I think I haven't played a ton with Mercy or Jason, but I think Jason's kind of known for doing some crazy things as well. But Vanessa was in a class of her own. when it came to that. In terms of like net winnings, like obviously very good player, beat high stakes online, won a ton of money, but it just individual plays would deviate so far from what I thought was normal that nobody even comes remotely close. All right, so it looks like Daniel 3-bet on the left. He c-bets again, same size, similar board. 7-4-2 is 8-6-2 last time. Gets a call this time. Got a small Doug lead on the 5 straight with the nuts. All right, so Doug floats 7-4-2, 3-bet pot from Daniel. We get a 9 and bring a flush draw. Yeah, it seems like a spot Doug can definitely call again pretty often, and I would say that is a very bad card for Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. That middling card on the river is going to be a little better for Doug.
Yeah.
Did I miss any other hands?
No, nothing significant. Doug had the nuts in a small part on the right. In terms of the Vanessa hand, I can't remember it exactly. I'll see if I can find it on my Twitter later. It was real insanity. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Again, I think that card is just so good for Doug's range here after floating twice that I think he has to jam a reasonable amount against Daniel's 3-betting range.
Definitely. He's going to have a lot of strong hands and a lot of floats that missed.
Yep.
Stuff like back 10 or something. Yeah, if Daniel did call that river, that would have been the biggest pot of the match so far, at about 154K, but unfortunately, no luck. Are they talking about the Jack 7 Vanessa Self stand?
It was me who brought up Vanessa. I said, I can't talk about this skill to ego, but in terms of like net winnings to insane plays, Vanessa registers the absolute highest for me ever. I've just played some absolutely insane hands against her that like if I didn't know were her, I just would have said, absolutely there's no way a good player could do that. But again, she crushes.
Right.
And there are players who do that, but like just some really insane stuff.
Yeah, I mean, talk about someone who takes like a different approach to Doug, who will like Doug is very, very careful about making adjustments and is very slow to make adjustments in general. Sort of waits for a lot of evidence. Vanessa is someone who, I mean, she thrived in a time when this was a really good strategy, which is just using intuition. Basically, she was a very intuitive player with a good, she had a good technical game too, but sometimes she would just completely disregard the technical game that she knew and would do something crazy. I mean, that Jack 7 hand, not only did she get it in for like, what I want to say like 300 blinds preflop with Jack 7 versus Prahlad Friedman, who I don't think is known to be like a very aggressive preflop player. It was a pot limit game. It was pot limit preflop. So she got it in pot limit preflop. That's pretty tough to do. It was like a 7-bet or something. Good stuff.
All right, I'm gonna mute myself for 1 second. I need to see if I can find my own hand now. So give me just a minute.
Mike and Brian, did Vanessa steal Doug's haircut or did Doug steal Vanessa's? That's actually a great question. I think Doug's been a faux hawk guy for a long, long time. So I think he was probably the first mover on that. Ooh, sorry about that motorcycle. Yeah, I think he was probably the first mover on that, but I don't think Vanessa was far behind, if at all. PO Diesel, yes, we are live.
No luck finding it. Another
Damn.
time, maybe.
Yeah, if you find it, definitely tweet it out. We'll give you the upswing retweet so people who are watching, at least a handful of people who are watching, could see it. Was it a heads up sit and go?
We've been 10K heads up at the WSOP.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that should be fine.
We'd had this big argument prior on all this stuff. There's just all this stuff going into it, and then we drew each other first round, and then she just like absolutely punted it off in insane fashion. But it was just all the stars aligned for it. It was amazing.
Oh man, that honestly. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but that honestly sounds like a good thing for us to give you like a quick text interview and write up a blog post for Upswing about that. That sounds like an amazing story.
It was really epic. And I even tweeted, like, I remember tweeting like, oh yeah, like, I'm absolutely drawing Vanessa after all of this, and just like, boom, first round. It was even like the play-in round.
Amazing. Well, you got that 5K rebate at least, or she did. If it was,
she did.
If they started doing that year. Daniel C-bet on the left gets called. King on the turn. Daniel checks over to Doug, who uses 1/3. You do see a lot of this 1/3ing in this exact spot where the 3-bets pre-flop, C-bets the flop, which they're going to be doing. The C-bet is going to be at a high frequency, and then so the turn, when checks to, the in-position player gets to bet small frequently to kind of put pressure on all those give-ups and those marginal hands from the out-of-position player's range. We get a pretty interesting river, probably going to be a little better for Daniel. But Doug will have some backdoor flush draws that Daniel can't have here. Both players can probably have Queen Jack, but Doug's probably a little bit more likely to have that.
Daniel's checks like almost all of his range there, right?
On the river, I think he probably checks all of it. He has had some river leads in interesting spots. I don't know if this would be one of them.
All right, 2/3 from Doug. We could get that big pot. I guess a little bit less, 18. So.
Gets through for Doug.
Was expecting D-Negs to lead with a flush. No, like I said, and Mike said, I don't think he really can lead that river too often. It's just a weird spot to balance, and you're gonna have so many hands that you sort of floated there after you've 3-bet and then bet that you're gonna need to be able to balance it and have check raises on the river. So.
Yeah, leading there as Daniel would theoretically almost certainly be a very, very dicey play, because it's going to be tough for him to then have a protected enough checking range to like handle pressure from Doug. So he's just got to check with all the hands, including his good ones. He can't like take some of those good ones, put it into a lead range, because he will get pretty punished, especially by Doug in particular. Doug is a big bluffer. Small bet from Daniel after 4-betting. It's about the size you'd expect. Just random letters. We think Doug is in for 150K. It's easier to just track one player. Call from Doug. Get the flush completing turn. Probably going to be a little better for Doug. Yeah, probably going to be a little better for Doug. He's going to have a lot of suited hands that 3-bet and then are like just going to call a 4-bet because they're suited. He leads, so
he does lead. So there's your texture change lead that somebody else was just mentioning in the chat.
Yep. So he's leveraging the fact that that card is a lot better for his range and putting out a lead. He doesn't want to check and then have Daniel just check behind, give him the option to do that. River 5 pairs the board. Definitely some sick, cooler possibilities here if we have a flush for a full house type scenario, but
yeah, Daniel doesn't have.
The ranges are much wider.
He doesn't have too much left, anyways. So it's if there were still 100K deep here, it'd be a lot more interesting. But as is, I think Doug's just jamming a lot there.
10's full for Doug
against the straight. Yep.
Wow, interesting. That was a lead on the turn from Doug, right? Yeah, it wasn't a check raise. I was going to say interesting check raise, but that was not a check raise. That makes sense. So yeah, pretty. That makes a lot of sense. We did have a stick cooler going into that river, but
Yep, cooler the other way. So
yeah, Daniel certainly cannot consider folding that hand ever.
Yeah. And somebody said 177K pot, not actually the pot itself. I believe it's just
Yeah, it was,
you know.
that was 104K effective.
Yeah.
Bling bling blow. Haven't heard that in a while. Thank you for bringing that back to my brain, Brad Newman. And by a while, by the way, I only mean like 4 months. 4 months ago, I put on that YouTube video and watched it. Fantastic. Another great. I shouldn't be surprised that with Primo here, we're getting into random 2+2 stuff from like the 2008 to like 2015. But if you want to see something amazing, bling bling blow on 2+2, that whole thread, fantastic. Checkers number 3 in the house. That's right, Mike McDonald. Nice value bet from Daniel with the lowest possible flush.
So Daniel 4-bet with Jack Queen offsuit there, right?
Mm-hmm. Interesting stuff. We did actually see Doug 4-bet that hand earlier in the match. I want to say session 2 or 3. He actually ended up running it in a really interesting spot. The board was like ace 9-4, 2 spades, turn brick, river, or no, turn ace, not a brick at all, river 4. So it was like a double paired board. And Doug decided to go for it with queen jack off, and Daniel just had ace jack.
I remember. I remember.
So I'm quite certain that's going to be a mixed. There's no way Doug is just 4-betting a queen jack off every time. No way. But it's probably a mixed frequency 4-bet. It just plays too good as a call to just 4-bet it every time.
Yep.
But he's probably mixing it in, and then I would guess there's a good chance Daniel's doing the same thing, just 4-betting occasionally. Obsidian Potato, are you sure he had ace queen of diamonds? I'm pretty sure he had ace jack of diamonds. Small turn probe from Doug. Interesting to see. You're not going to see too much aggression from Doug on a turn like this because Daniel's going to have ace king and high cards in general. But it does make sense that if he does bet, he's going to go for a small size because Daniel does have so many strong hands. You don't really want to fire big into a range with a bunch of strong hands. Not a good strategy.
Get a 3-bet from Daniel on the right as well. And Doug pots the river after the lead.
All right, guys, you're making me check because we did have a blog post up on Upswing from last Friday, the top 10 biggest pots so far, and I believe that queen jack bluff was in there, so we'll see.
Mike's memory.
You guys are right. Ace queen of diamonds. My mistake.
Got him.
I would have bet on that too. I was pretty sure it was ace jack. Damn. By the way, just FYI, Twitch in particular, we are on the way to getting a mode. What are they called? Emotes on Twitch. It's a little bit of a process. I tried to just download them from Doug's channel and upload them to ours, but we need like the original files. Big pain in the butt. So we'll get them up eventually, and then you guys could start bringing out your dongers, cookie jars. White flag is one that we have. That's definitely one you're going to want to have.
There's a 3-bet by Daniel that he just checked 2 streets at least already.
Expected to have a hand like maybe a king, maybe pocket tens, queen, something like that. It's kind of what he's the bulk of his range. Yeah, 6 is kind of the same idea, though that's a hand that benefits a little bit more from like betting the flop to protect. Oh, we will have the bad reg emote. Don't worry, Brett call.
Somebody says 15 minutes in and plus 100K. We're actually like almost an hour and a half in. So a little bit longer than 15 minutes, but 100K is still a pretty nice day. Still room to get unstuck.
Yeah, if you guys want to keep following this challenge, go ahead and hit that follow button on Twitch or subscribe if you want to. I think you'll need to subscribe to see the VODs, but I'm actually not even sure about that. And then if on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, get notified when this match goes live. We're going live whenever they play.
So one thing that was interesting is after, maybe it was after the Wednesday match. Do you know what were the results before yesterday? Do you remember?
Going into yesterday, Doug was down like 160.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So similar-ish to what it was now. A small session yesterday. So prior to that, the betting odds were still pretty much like before the match started. It was 4-1 for Doug. Shifted to 5-1 for a little bit, where most action was going. But even yesterday, with Daniel up 160 and 3,000 something hands in, there's pretty big action being thrown around still at 4-1. So like JMO publicly offered on Twitter his 4 million to Perkins 1 million on Doug. I don't think Perkins accepted it. But I wonder how drastically. Like, it was just interesting seeing it sit at 4-1, 4-1. Doug goes up. There wasn't a ton. I think it maybe shifted to minus 500-ish on poker shares, maybe a little bit more than that. And then when Daniel brings it the entire other way, like, it never dropped below that 4-1, even for really huge amounts. So if Doug gets this back to even soonish, I'm curious to see where those odds move. I mean, Timex is here. Timex, man, just tell us, what's it going to be? If Doug brings this back to even, if this session ends at even, what are the new odds on poker shares?
I bet is that minus EV for him to say?
Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah. He can ignore me. I have no problem. Don't answer that if you don't want to. But you're here. You've got everyone's captive audience. Tell us what it's going to be.
Small C bet in the 4-bet pot on the left gets called from Doug. He bet about 4K into 20 on the flop.
Yeah, so this is interesting then. If there's a 4-bet, Doug 4-bet and Daniel led.
No, Daniel check called flop for like 4K.
Okay, Doug bet. Yeah, okay.
If I said Daniel, yeah.
I thought you said, yeah.
Doug with the big double barrel. Or no, not big, sorry. Missaw. Third pot. Setting up about a really small river jam. It'll be, what, 50K? 15K into 15. Ooh, Daniel's all in. Ooh, and Doug folds. Must have had very little equity there.
Yep, yeah. That was no hesitation there. And Timex says if he's a gambling man, he'd probably say the odds will be more than 4-1. Come even, if it is even.
Oh, if Doug gets back to even?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Those kinds of bets. It's not even really specific to heads up. The one that Doug just had there, where he bet what seemed to be a committing amount. Those are always kind of interesting because you're only risking your bet. So he bet, what was it, 10K? You're only risking that 10K, but it feels to the other player like you're risking all that 25. So it's almost like they have to make a decision for 25 where you're making a decision for 10. It's not exactly like that, but psychologically it sort of feels like that, and it sort of plays out that way because Daniel's not going to be doing, well, he should be doing some calling actually, but
yeah. And Jack's less than Jack King on the right-hand table. Someone says, does Timex ever do anything minus EV? I mean, there was that free throw bet. Oh, wait. No, everything Timex does that seems minus EV is crushing. Except he did want to make that chess bet that all the GMs seem to think is pure insanity, right? So I believe Timex was willing to bet that he could get GM in chess within
5 years, right?
Was it 5 or 10 years? I think it was 10 years. And there were some grandmasters who said literally you could start right now and go every day for the rest of your life and never ever ever get there. And it's standard, right? They're entrenched. Like, of course they're going to say that, but it's another one. I don't know how he does it. He brings up these odds and I just want to bet against him, right? Like, I never see him fail. I love Timex. He's super smart. I think that he's a crusher, so I should want to bet on him. But every time he offers a line, I'm like, how can I not bet against that? There's the same with the free throws, the same with everything, and you just get punished over and over again. So the GM is another one where I'm just like, I feel like I have to bet against him, but it would not surprise me at all if he just crushed it.
I hope for Timex's sake. I like Timex. He's a nice guy from what I've seen. I do not want him spending 10 years just playing chess all the time. That's all he does. I feel like he's earned a better.
Get him off the streets, man. Get him to the chessboard. Get him out of here. Free up some space for the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's like mid-30s or something. Like, I feel like with what he's done up till now, he has earned a better, like, mid-30s to mid-40s period. Like, he doesn't need to go into the chess lab every day for 10 years.
I
But
always loved
if you do it Timex, I'll be rooting for you. I will not bet against you.
my favorite chess story was from a heads up singer actually. So H2 Olga, Alexander Timin. Great guy that was very, very good at heads up singos for a while and just generally at poker. But so his uncle was the highest rated non-Russian chess player of his time, basically. She was like extremely good at chess. His father was extremely good at chess. And he told me that when he was like, it was either I think it was 4 or 5 years old, he told his dad and his uncle that he wanted to learn chess. He's like, okay, like, I want to learn chess. And their answer to him was, don't bother, you're too old. And that always stuck with me of just like the insanity that is chess, right? It's this 5-year-old kid with the best resources you could ever have, like some of the best chess players possible. And they're like, listen, kid, 5 years old, you're already too old. Like, move on to something else. This game is not for you. And
It's
so
like it's like a 29-year-old running back.
yeah, exactly. So I was just, that was the first thing I thought about when Timex wanted to put in his GM bet. And just another reason why he would absolutely fleece me if that came up.
Oh, by the way, some Daniel Smith corrected us on YouTube. He had his whole life. It was a life bet.
Oh, was it a life bet? I don't think
Yeah.
it matters. 10 years or life, like, I don't think you're gonna be 45 grinding your way to from like 1800 to GM or something. So I'm going to catch up on the chat here. I missed a lot while I was waving my hands around and talking there. So I'll catch up. You do some commentating for a moment.
Yeah, sounds good. So we got a 15K pot on the left here. Hate to say I did not see the action up to this point. If I had to guess, 3-bet C-bet from Doug. Now he's double barreling for 13K. But what's for sure true is Doug's betting 14 to 15K on this turn. This is going to set up about a pot size river shove, 90% pot. Does call. Daniel's got 39K behind with 43K in the middle. See what Doug decides to do here. He jams it in. Daniel, no snap call, but Daniel has been slow to call with some pretty strong hands, so could still be a 10. I do not see Daniel tanking with a hand better than a 10 right now, though. Could be a hand like 9x of spades that Daniel's made a pair of 9s on the river. Not an ideal hand to have because you block some of the misdraws from Doug's range, but doesn't necessarily make it not a call. Pair in a heads-up match is a strong hand. He does fold.
Gets a fold. Another big one.
Yeah, Doug having a solid session today. Yesterday, or rather, I should say the day before, Daniel was really cruising on Wednesday. It seemed like he won every pot. Kind of went a little bit the other way today. Daniel has, found some chinks in Doug's armor today, in today's session specifically, but it's mainly come up all Doug. He's been winning most of the big pots. There was that one big pot that Daniel won.
Set of seven over kings. And Timex did say dog problems, so no worries. Obsessing over random stuff is just fun. Like, I have no idea how someone could want to go live on a beach or whatnot. A normal retirement sounds way more stressful to me than 10 years of grinding, and I completely agree with that sentiment. I went on semi-retirement for a little while, and like my wife is just asking, like, what are you gonna do if you're just like, what are you gonna do all day? I'm like, for me, I literally, like, I want to write code and study math, and I went and took a bunch of like Calc 3 classes that just for fun because I wanted to, like, learn math and physics, piano. There's like so many things I would love to dive into and try to just get way better because I find them fascinating. I don't know, that to me is interesting, and even more interesting when you have intrinsic motivation to do something, to have this epic bet to become a GM or just anything like that is super fun. And I think it's awesome. I think that's way more fun than just doing whatever beach life.
Yeah, I think in my mind, there's like an in between. Like I didn't expect McDonald to go into beach life, but I would expect him to be able to find more enjoyable and possibly even fruitful ways to spend his time than playing chess all day.
Fruitful for sure. I don't think chess is really the most fruitful profession, although it's gotten a little bit better in recent days. I think you have plenty of people just like streaming Twitch full time with chess, and
Right.
I can
Yeah,
do the
it's
thing.
really cool. It's really
Yeah.
cool that that's a thing. That Twitch has opened up that monetization opportunity for chess players.
Yeah, definitely.
Doug now down to starting stack on the right table. He's been focusing all of his wins on the left. Interesting strategy. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Oh man, I love the way people think about the world. I absolutely. Timex can 100% do it. 1,000 ELO is not that much. All you have to do is gain 1 ELO per day. That's not unreasonable. And I would say it's copied and pasted all over the
Yeah,
place.
right.
Uh,
I, I
absolutely.
I love that. I love that the chat is just relentless when someone does write a paragraph. They're just like they're so fast to copy paste it. It's fantastic.
I know, like I don't know when I was coming up. By the way, so this is way back. Like, let me think when I started playing poker. I think it was 2001, I guess, maybe 2002, somewhere around there. Um, and that was like my dad's first piece of advice to me was win one buy-in per day and quit. And I had friends, one of Timex's very good friends too, Kai. That was his go-to strategy, man. When I met him for the first time in real life, I was shocked. I'm over there grinding like 14 hours a day, and he's like, "Listen, I start off, and when I win one buy-in, like I'm just done for the day. If he's down, he'll grind. He'll grind an endless day down, trying to recover it. But when he got up a buy-in or two, he was just done. He packed it in, and I always thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that is amazing. I've actually heard of a few players that do that. Was that a heads up sit and goer or was it?
Yeah, his heads up
Yeah,
singoer.
that makes
And he
sense.
was like, he's a very good heads up singoer. He made plenty. Um,
Yeah, I wonder if we're talking about the same person. I'm not sure. But if not, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if there were multiple good heads up sit and go players from like the 2012 roughly era that did the same thing.
yeah.
You get a nice day off, Overbet here from Daniel. He went for his larger c-bet size on the flop, 1500 into 2K. He tends to use either 1500 or 400 into the 2K pot on the flop. This is a little bit more of a dynamic board, so you would expect the larger size, which he goes for, but then he goes 7400 into 5K on the turn. Doug does call. Doug's calling range on this turn, probably not going to like the King River in general,
Yeah,
but a 5's going to be good. I was going to say, unless it's King 5 of spades, but he's got the Queen 5 of spades, and it's
yeah.
good. Yeah, it's kind of like heads up sit and go week here on the Doug and Upswing channels. We had Olivier Bousquet in the mix yesterday. I guess I'm technically heads up sit and go guy. You're here. It's good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Good to reunite the community a little.
Heads up singers ran the streets in the commentary booth for a while back in the day. Even like WSOP, we had quite a bit of heads up singers back then. There was like Scott Baumstein, Olivier, Max Steinberg, myself. Like, we were all doing WSOP streams back then. It was interesting to see how much that analysis was being brought in the booth, even for non heads up sit and go events.
Yeah, that is interesting. Come to think of it, I remember you guys all doing commentary. That's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know Scott Baumstein played heads up sit and goes too. I had no idea.
Yeah, man. Scotty B Cash. He was one of those guys who refused to move up. I knew him for a super long time. I've known him forever. And like, he would just make like 200K grinding hundreds. And he was just like,
Sick.
why? Why
Good for
will you
him.
not move? He just refused. He crushed. He was
Right.
super smart about everything. He saved his money. He did all the things that like the dummies playing higher didn't do. And he has done amazingly well for himself.
Good for him.
But
Sorry
yeah,
to cut you off real quick. We have a double barrel from Doug in a 3-bet pot here. Very dynamic board, and we get a pretty bricky river. Doug's overpairs are really going to like that card. Let's see what he decides to do here. He's got about 66% pot left.
Just to confirm, this was a 3-bet pot?
3-bet pot, and he went for his large c-bet on the flop, like 5k, and then turn about 12k into 20.
Yeah, I think when he bets the turn, like he's jamming that river a reasonable amount, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he has so many draws that he certainly has to give up with some of them. And we did see, I don't know if you caught it, there was a hand, I want to say on the Wednesday session, where Doug 3-bet with 7-5 of clubs, and the board ran out such that he had a straight draw on the flop, but then had the nut low on the river, the literal nut low with 7 high, and he checked it. So like it's clearly he is choosing his bluffs in a different way than just what's the lowest hand, because what other bluff if you're going based on what's the lowest hand. So he likely would give up with like, maybe some middling diamonds or something that really blocks the meat of Daniel's folding range. I can see him giving up with something like that.
But in general, like Daniel can float that flop pretty wide and turn into a bunch of turn floats, and like Doug still has 100% of the top of his range is still there, right? And really like nothing gets there. It ran out a lot of options, but just super bricky once you get to the 2 that I would at the very least expect Doug to be jamming very, very wide, even if not 100, certainly not 100%, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Very wide for sure. Doug getting he's about almost within one buy-in of pulling this match back to the even column. Good session for him today. As we've mentioned before, we think he's in for about 150k on these tables, so that puts him up about 125 right now. Could be in for a little less though. We were kind of doing a high estimate because we've been doing a low estimate for Doug a little bit. We've been overestimating Doug's wins a few times more than the opposite, so we wanted to kind of go the other direction this time. Delay c-bet here from Daniel, checks back the flop and bets the turn using his larger size. It's a card I'd actually expect him to use the smaller size a little bit more often, but he does have some trips that want to build a bigger pot. Man, talking about chess really started.
There's a lot of conversation going on here, which is nice. I like it. Let me ask you, like an aside question. And so you came up in Heads Up Singo, obviously got exposure to all kinds of different people in different games. Like who were not only your poker heroes at the time, but who were the people who both then and then through once you actually got good and like understood what it means to be very good at poker? Like who are the people who you came out respecting the most? Not necessarily from Heads Up Singo, but like in general.
Right. We are seeing Daniel raise on this turn here. Like most people when first starting out, I really liked Daniel Negreanu, of course. Really liked Mike Matisow, actually, randomly. I listened to the Mouth podcast, and I remember sending him on MySpace. I sent him like a stud hand that I played. Doug gonna win it with an 8. I sent him like a stud hand that I played, asked him for advice on it, and he was like, he answered, to his credit, but he said something super unsatisfying. It was like, I don't know, man, everyone does it differently. It was like, that was his answer, and I was like, okay, I guess that's fine. And then when I kind of got into poker more, you were always someone I followed. Actually, I was paying attention to what you were doing. Olivier Bousquet, that's in the Heads Up Sit and Go realm. Obviously, the game I'm playing, so I'm going to pay attention. As we have a 4-bet pot on the left here, Jack, King, and then towards the end, people like Lucky Chewy, great player. Doug, of course. He's like a close friend, so I'm biased. No one else is really coming to mind, but I know there are more. Does one come to mind for you?
Yeah, for me, definitely Jungle. I love the way Jungle thought. Jungle blew my mind. But like True Teller is another person who I remember I had a chance to get coaching from True Teller. It was like right when Cap got released on Stars. And he was just like, he made Infinite like the next year and a half or 2 years after that. And I had a chance to get coaching from him for 1K an hour. And I was like, too much, like not worth it. And then he just became like just absolute god tier. But I followed him for a very long time, and I always playing against him. I thought True Teller was super, super tough. Got good at every game, like just somebody I respect a ton. So yeah, True Teller is one who I always just held in very, very high regard.
So we have a 4-bet pot on the left where Doug c-bet for 1/5 pot or so on the flop. And then it goes check, check down to here. I expect Daniel to have a lot of pocket pairs, maybe some king X, maybe some traps. Doug's all in.
This is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Doug certainly can have a hand like pocket queens here. He can maybe have a hand like ace king that decided to check the turn. There's not too much it's worried about.
How often do you think Daniel shows up with Jack X there? Jack X or better. So checks the turn 1, check, check, and then checks the river again.
I would say he has Jack X or better a bit. He's definitely a bit of a trappy guy.
For sure.
I mean, I think he's most certainly gonna trap some boats. $31K pot on the right. $13K, 14K bet on the turn from Doug.
And somebody asking, can you focus on the game? Like, listen, if there's whole cards, it's different. You can provide a lot more analysis. And in this case, like, what do you want me to do? Doug raises to his standard raise size, and Doug c-bets, and D-neg fold, and we have no idea what either of them did it with. Like, it's one of the things where you kind of have to analyze the showdowns. You're looking in general with kind of overall strategies, overall frequencies, and what like once you see what they're getting there with certain things, trying to break down ranges when you get there. But like, there's going to be a lot of dead time if you want us to just be like, because there's nothing. What can you say? Doug raises. Okay, got to wait for Daniel to do something. We're just sitting there. So yeah, it's a balance. I get you though. There's a game happening, and obviously that's why you guys are here. But there is some balance there.
Yeah, it's funny. So the guy who said that, I kind of gave him a trolly answer. Oh, okay, sure, got it. But I was kind of trolling him. But we'll focus on the game, guys, for sure. But we're gonna shoot the shit a little bit. We might talk about some old poker stuff. I know some people are gonna like that, some aren't. That's just how it goes. Some people don't like when we talk about the poker, if you can believe that. Everyone has different opinions. But we're gonna just try to give you the best possible conversation over this game that we can. Plus, this is my first time really hanging out with Brian, hanging out. So I want to ask him some questions, shoot the shit a little. C-bet from Daniel on the right, about 25%, gets called. Saw a guy ask, who seems like a nice guy, so we should answer him. Did either of us ever play against OTB? Certainly not for me. He started. He was. I was never really at that level, and I was never really on the same site as him. So there was no real matchup. What about you? Did you ever catch him?
Same deal in that. I was telling Mike earlier, kind of the biggest stakes that I ever played. I never played heads up cash too deep.
Oh wait, sorry to cut you off real quick.
Yeah.
Doug raises the turn to 12.4K.
Just his 3-bet from Daniel. Daniel bets small. He bets 25%. Bets the turn, gets raised, and folds.
Yeah, gets through. Nice little pot for Doug. Yeah, so what were you saying? You played a little bit of heads up cash?
Yeah, so I played 888 had this game where it's 5 big blind, min and max buy-in. And I played up to 501K. So, you're buying in for 5K, but you get as deep as you want. So plenty of 6-figure pots and everything. So he may have been somebody on there. There was a bunch of people who were very high stake regs there who I didn't know who they were. Like True Teller was somebody who I did know, and a couple others I knew their stars names. But a bunch of the regs there, I didn't necessarily know exactly who they were on stars, just kind of guessing at countries. But I don't think he played shallow often enough for me to have played him. I don't think he played those games. So I don't think so. Not 100% certain, but I don't think so.
The Belgian Crusher, OTV.
Yep.
Super sick 2+2 thread if you guys want to check that out. He actually started a thread in the Poker Goals and Challenges, whatever it's called, forum on 2+2, and it was basically like, hey guys, I'm gonna try playing poker. And it's like it's basically his progression until he basically reaches high stakes. It's pretty cool.
I didn't know that existed. I used to love those threads. I had one of my own for a while, but I used to love following. It was just awesome. I've been on 2+2 in a long time, but it was great. All of us came up through there. So
Yeah, indeed. Doug has, I think, about pulled ahead in the overall challenge now. He's up about 170K on the day. It's got to be close. If he's not ahead overall right now, it's very, very close. Within a buy-in, certainly, probably within like a quarter of a buy-in. Very, very good session from Doug today so far. The players have agreed to play a minimum of 2 hours, as both players 3-bet here. Doug's gets through. They've decided to play a minimum of 2 hours. With the option to continue playing. Has to be unanimous. Both players have to decide to keep playing. So we'll see if Daniel wants to keep playing. He has not really, in general, he's been slow to keep playing, but particularly when he's been down, he hasn't. But that could just be reading into it being the early sessions. So there might be nothing to that.
Which part of that process is anonymous in terms of who quits is anonymous?
No, I'm sorry, unanimous. The decision has to be
unanimous. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said anonymous, and I was just like, I think it's obvious who's quitting most of the time, but no. Okay, makes more sense. 3-bet pot over here. Went with the big size. Got called, I believe, anyways.
Yes, sir. Yeah, someone confirming. DNegs did say he was going to play later today, but we'll see. All in from Daniel, 32K into 20.
So 1.5x pot size again.
Doug apparently has a decision to make.
Yeah, it's a weird 3-bet, big c-bet on this board into the ace that he checks into the the overbet jam on the jack on the river.
Gets the fold.
Yeah, that's a hand
Doug,
I would love to see.
Yeah, for sure. Wish we could see showdowns. I would probably guess Doug had some sort of, I mean, pretty obvious some sort of one pair hand, maybe a pocket pair, like 10, something like that.
Wow, that's a 3x pot bet on the river, which trips on the board. I love it. That's something that I really doubt DNegs has studied much against. He hasn't used that, right? Like, have you seen Doug do this before?
Yeah, he's had a few river over bets, like
of this size, 3x pot.
Yeah, he actually had one, the kind of the most talked about one. He had King 7 on like this wasn't the order of the board, but it was the relevant cards. King 7 5XX, and Doug had King 7. Daniel had King 5. The pot was like 14K going into the river, and Doug jammed for like 42, and obviously got the value. Daniel had rivered 2 pair there.
Yeah, I think I saw the showdown of that one. I think I was actually watching the stream.
Yeah, he's had a couple more similar like that.
I like it.
Thank you for getting that link in the Twitch chat there, Jimmy. Appreciate it. Of Doug's infamous 2+2 posting history, including his I'm reaching the end of my rope thread, which he posted in 2007, of Doug saying that he's reaching the end of his rope in poker because he just could not beat 25 NL or whatever it was he was playing, and he was just so frustrated.
That
then
transition period after that was just insane. Here, I'll be right back. I might fill up my water bottle, go to the bathroom. I'll be back in just a minute.
Sounds good. The link didn't work. Sorry about that, guys. Bad link. But if you just Google WCG Rider 2+2, you will find Doug on 2+2. That's his name on 2+2. Three-bet gets the fold from Daniel. Just want to give you guys a quick heads up, by the way, while Brian's not here anyway. We have a Black Friday sale coming up at Upswing Poker, our once-a-year sale. It's really the only time of the year that all courses are discounted. 25% off starting on Thanksgiving, Thursday the 26th. That goes until Monday, Cyber Monday, the 30th. Everything 25% off. Great time to grab a course if you have been considering one of them. We got some great ones. Nick Petrangelo, Canu 7. The Lab is really popular for no-limit hold'em players in general. Go check out our offerings. $3.5K pot on the left. Doug puts in About a 80% pot size bet. Gets the fold. What course do I recommend for a mid-stakes live player? The Lab, most certainly. The Lab is probably, I think it's our only course with like, well, that's actually not true, but it's the course with the most like specific live content. There's a whole live poker section, and then a lot of the content is geared towards sort of live or online. It's just like basic poker stuff that you need to know for either game. So yeah, probably the Lab. Small bet from Doug on the left, 400 and 1800. C-bet gets through. Doug going to win a small showdown with the eights. Floyd 1733 says, this swings so much it's nuts. It really does, man. Heads up, no limit is a crazy game. Very, very swingy. That's why it's not as representative as you might think. When you see someone lose 4 buy-ins or be down 4 buy-ins after 3,000 hands, it's really just not that much. Just how heads-up poker works, especially when you're playing 2-hour sessions, like they have been for most of this. Very, very swingy. Sorry you just got timed out there, MR. I believe you posted a link we were asking for, but if you whisper it to Jimmy, he can post it because he's actually a mod. Assuming that was a not an out-of-line link. Small bet from Doug on the right in this 3-bet pot. He's delay c-betting here. He 3-bet and then check the flop, check. That's 2,700 now. He's going to want to do that with ace highs, stuff like that, for sure. Maybe some bluffs. Welcome back, Ryan.
Thank you.
Didn't miss too much.
I was gonna say, it doesn't look like I missed anything too big.
I can't V, as we're waiting for Doug's river decision, and he checks, asks, what's the highest and lowest Doug has ever been in NL, or in heads-up NL? I know he had a $1.1 million losing day to Isildur. I believe that was a single day. And as far as his biggest wins, I don't know, because I think he probably. It's easy to remember. It's true for yourself, and it's also true for your friends. Easy to remember the big losses than the big wins, and I certainly remember him losing heaps to Isildur at. It was actually 80K NL, twice the stakes that Doug is playing right now, if you can believe that. So he actually only lost 13 buy-ins, but it was 1.1 million. Baseplay 4, can I dish out any more details on the Upswing live poker course that you may have spoiled in the previous stream? I actually can't. Can't give any other details other than the fact that it's going to exist. But that's the stage we're at right now. Sorry.
Was it a strategic spoil or an actual mishap?
No, not a mishap. I mean, it's certainly fine for people to know we have a course coming up. Can't hurt. But we weren't planning on telling anyone yet.
Nice.
We try not to say things until it's like in the can kind of thing, just in case something changes.
Got another D-Negs 4-bet over here.
4,400, as you'd expect to see a small size. This is a little more of a dynamic board, but in 4-bet pots, unless it's extremely dynamic, like a Jack 10-9 or something like that, and even then, you do tend to see the small bets. I'm gonna get a poll going on Twitch for results of the session. What should the line be? Oh, check raise from Doug to 11K. Well, we'll wait to talk about the line in a second, because this is going to make a big difference. It's got to get through.
All right, so with that, he's going to be up to almost 200K, right?
He's up about 200 right now, yeah. Or no, is he up 200? He's in for about 150. So he's up 180, right? About 180?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's likely taking a lead on the challenge. So what do you think if you had to guess? So if he's up 180 right now, say our number is correct, what's the line for this match ending? Maybe like 200 for Doug? I mean, it could end at 4 minutes.
We're just about to hit the 2-hour mark.
It's probably close to what it is now then, like maybe like 190,
Yeah.
something like that.
I'm trying to think. The average duration longer. If they play longer, I doubt they play longer than an hour and a half. It depends
I
on how
agree.
firm they committed to playing longer. So I guess the average time is probably like 25 or 30 minutes additional. Yeah, I don't know. Probably like 186,000 is my line.
All right, let's do that.
I'm no Timex here, but that's a line I'm making off the top of my head.
Well, luckily we're no bit shares, or we're no poker shares. We're just sharing a poll on Twitch, so our line doesn't have to be too good. We can have some inefficiencies.
Perfect.
Doug or Daniel winning on the right there a moment ago with that top pair. Now opening the button. Minosa, 2-hour challenges are so meh. Gonna need a few months to end this challenge. You're right. I think that's why they're putting in a little bit longer sessions. They also put in a kind of a bonus session yesterday. They were only playing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and they threw in a Thursday session yesterday. So they're trying to speed it up. I mean, we're over. Assuming they play the 25K hands, we're almost 15%. I think we're 15% of the way there, a little bit more. So yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they're both reasonably motivated to get in hands. Now again, I think given their dispositions coming into it, that's like easy for that to be the case with the results so far. Daniel had been winning, like he feels more comfortable. In the beginning, he said, I'm going to start with short sessions and extend them, but he's winning a bunch of money. So he's like, okay, I'll get in some more sessions, play longer sessions. That's fine. And Doug's always been in the disposition of, I think I have the edge. I want to play as long and as much as possible. I don't want this to drag on for too long. Let's get in the hands. Less time to study. Keep the current status quo. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all that they're trying to extend it. There's a big bet on the river by Daniel. Another pot and a half.
Three bet from Daniel on the right.
Someone.
Oh, I remember that. Jimmy Fricky, our wonderful stream runner, just reminded us that in around 2008, Doug won a 2+2 poll, of worst 200 NL reg. Pretty funny stuff.
That's amazing.
Doug wins less than 186K, narrowly wins that poll, 42-41. That's as close as the vote could get. Good shit. Good job, guys.
Set a good line, hopefully.
Yeah, apparently you did, at least for the Twitch chat's opinion, which actually probably means you said a bad line.
Yeah, exactly. Given that we just saw the crowdsourcing on Doug's skill did not go so well for that 200 NL reg poll.
Well, to be fair, he was a different player.
Big bet from Doug over here. Gets through.
Gets through indeed. Jimmy now posted that thread that he was meaning to post earlier on Twitch chat. So if you want to check that out, I'll link it on YouTube for you guys as well. What is this again? The I'm reaching the end of my rope. Yeah. So this is Doug when he was very much in a different place in his poker career. Funny stuff.
Oh, somebody said the GG poker stream has Doug up 203K for the day. I would say grand truth is what the 186K is. Obviously, I set my line by what I'm thinking here, but if we were grading the line, we got to go with grand truth. So Doug will post that on Twitter, or they do it on the Upswing site and Twitter at the end of the day.
Indeed. Gotta wait for the dust to settle on this site to get the actual hard numbers. 13K or 13.5K overbet from Doug on the left, about 150% pot. Almost on the dot, 150 actually. Probably is on the dot. Yeah, I'm not going to do math, but it's something like that.
Oh, DNeg's sitting out, so potentially end of day.
Yeah, could be it. Daniel could decide to call it here. Or maybe he's just taking a break right at the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, you get buried for 200K, and maybe you're rethinking that extra long session today.
And that one gets through. Oh, Daniel
Plays another
posts.
button.
Yeah. Sit up. He hit the sit up
He's
next
not-
big button.
Okay, all right. Yeah, he's talking. Yeah, he's trying to say something about it, but
I've been trying to like, are they talking Morse code to each other? Like, what's happening? What, like, maybe they
I think
said,
he's trying to be like, I stole an extra button. Sorry, man. That
Yeah.
might, my guess. Maybe he's like, F you, that button's mine.
They are actually tracking buttons. So
I knew they were early. Yeah, I knew Doug had to give him a couple extra buttons.
Yeah, it could be GG, guys. We'll see. Doug is up about a little over 200K. I'm not sure if it's a little or a lot over 200. Or no, wait. Is it 200? No, by my count, it would be more like 180, but it could be higher.
Yeah. No.
Doug has almost certainly taken the lead on the day, though. Definitely above expectation. Hard to win 4.5 buy-ins in a day. It's easy to do in one way, but it's also kind of the higher end of expectation.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how much trash talk and psychological warfare Perkins is putting out on Twitter after this one.
Hoping to see more Hamster. I do not want to have to wait till Monday to see more of this.
All because Doug keeps football Sunday as a holiday.
Oh yeah, Doug, you're not going to get Sundays from Doug. At least he doesn't watch college, because then then he's always busy on weekends.
Yeah, looks like they're calling it. Yeah, somebody asked, do they have a deal with WSOP for a gentler rake? The rake is full here, but in the actual, I believe WSOP is refunding them rake, and Mike can confirm this. And the results of the challenge are being, tracked as if rake was factored back into it. So
exactly, yeah, they're getting 100% of rake back, and in the results, it's as if they have paid no rake.
Yep.
So yeah, that appears like it's going to be it, guys. We were expecting a longer session today. That's what Daniel said he planned for, but he also probably didn't plan to lose, between 180 and 200K. So that's likely why he wanted to shut it down. Good stuff from Doug today. That's gonna be enough to take the lead. Played a lot of really interesting hands. You can watch the replay if you want to on Doug's YouTube or on our Twitch. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button to stay notified of future streams. I believe the next one will be Monday at 2:30, 2:30 Pacific time. That is 2:30 p.m. I believe that's 22:30 GMT. If you have any questions for me or just want to follow me, MBradyCF on Twitter. You could also follow at Upswing Poker. I tend to be on that one a fair bit too. Brian, he's Primordial AA on Twitter. Anything else you want to talk about?
No. Feel free to shoot me any questions you guys have on Twitter. Happy to chat with all of you, and if they'll have me, I'm happy to come back and do another session at some point through the duration of this challenge. So I'm sure I'll see you guys again soon.
Yeah, we'll definitely be happy to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, guys. Take care. See you Monday. He's not. Yeah. No Doug